How's it going, everyone? Welcome to day 6 of the 30-day wholesaling challenge. And today we need to answer one of the biggest questions you have. How do I find the best virtual wholesaling markets? How do I find the best wholesaling market? And probably something, if you're locally wholesaling, is like, where do I find the best zip codes or the hottest areas in my own local market so I know exactly where to target so I can be just as efficient as possible in my wholesaling real estate operations? That's right, even if you picked out exactly where you want to wholesale, you got to figure out half of everywhere you're wholesaling right now, you can't even wholesale there. What do I mean by this? Half of pretty much every single city in the United States that you can wholesale in, your cash buyer doesn't want to buy there, right? It might be a rough, high crime area. It might be an area that's too nice or too bougie. You got to find what I call the Goldilocks zone, the zone that is just right for your buyers to hopefully overpay for your properties so you can make a ton on your wholesaling real estate deals. Or heck, if you're just trying to figure out this business, it's like, where should I even find a good virtual wholesaling market? Maybe I live in Nigeria. Maybe I live in somewhere in the Middle East, Asia, Europe, anywhere. Where should I virtually wholesale? We're going to answer all those questions today on how to find the hottest virtual wholesaling markets and the hottest zip codes in the market you choose for wholesaling real estate success. This is going to help you line up. So when you spend 10, 15, 20 hours every single week in wholesaling, you're actually being as efficient as possible. One big secret we have at freewholesaling.com and one massive secret I do when teaching you guys how to wholesale real estate is to use leverage. And what I mean by this is if you are putting 5 hours of wholesaling real estate marketing work in the right areas and zip codes, that's going to be 10 or 15 hours of work for the average Joe Schmo just doing any old area that isn't efficient and effective. And actually be able to run longer and better with the right technique without putting any more effort in. So this is what we're going to break down today. And really, for me to break this down, I really have to show you why I'm talking about what I'm talking about today is a quote from the great Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says, sometimes it's not how fast you row your boat, it's how fast the stream is going. And what I mean by this is some of you guys are in your rowboat, right? And you're rowing so hard. Oh, I'm trying so hard to get into wholesaling and do my thing. But if you're in the wrong market or if you're doing the wrong zip codes, it doesn't matter how hard you're rowing upstream on the river and there's no way you're going to have success when honestly you should move your boat to a better river. Maybe that's going downstream and you don't have to work as hard, and even for the same work, you can go way farther. And this is the same exact concept we have in wholesaling real estate. So what we're talking about today is how to find the hottest virtual wholesaling markets. We are going to be rowing in the best river stream possible to find the best virtual wholesaling deals. Now, what makes a great virtual wholesaling market? In my opinion, 2 things really make a virtual wholesaling market good. Number 1 is what I call the deals to wholesalers ratio. Basically what this is there's more deals for everyone in this type of ratio. So if you're in a really good wholesaling real estate market, the deals to wholesalers ratio is a lot better versus a more saturated or bad one. So for example, if we do like Los Angeles, California, which is a bad virtual wholesaling market, there is, a good amount of deals, but the amount of wholesalers trying to wholesale in that area versus the amount of deals is terrible. Versus if I try Houston, Texas, there's a massive amount of wholesaling real estate deals to be done there. And yes, there's a big population and there's a lot of wholesalers, but the amount of wholesaling deals supersedes it. And what I mean by this is, let's say, for example, there's 150 wholesaling deals being done in Houston, Texas, and there's maybe 1,000 wholesalers going after those leads. That doesn't seem too good at all, but really that ratio is pretty good. That means the top wholesalers are going to be doing 10, 15 deals a month and everyone else is doing 1 to 2 deals. Which is pretty good. And then the bottom people that don't want to work hard aren't getting any deals done. If I go to like LA, maybe there's 200 deals being done, but there is 10,000 wholesalers going after it. It's not a good ratio at all. And really the best way I can really rate this is if you're an average wholesaler working 10, 15 hours a week, if you're able to do 1 to 2 deals, that is what I'm going to call an average wholesaling real estate ratio for wholesalers to deals. Because if you're just working your 10, 15 hours and you're doing the effective stuff, the trying for dollars, reverse trying for dollars, you should be able to pull out 1 to 2 deals every single month. Now, if I go to a really saturated market, maybe you're not doing 1 to 2, maybe you're doing 1 every other month. And if you're in an amazing market, you're able to do 2 to 3 deals every single month. That's the best way to figure out exactly how many deals are being done versus how many wholesalers are working hard in that market. On top of this too, I like looking at success stories. I like looking at data that other wholesalers in that market are doing well. So if someone says, Zach, is Tyler, Texas a good area for virtual wholesaling or for wholesaling in general? Personally, I think I've maybe done 1 or 2 deals in Tyler, Texas. And so I don't have a lot of data on myself. I know you can do it, but if I go to my Facebook group and I see people sending me checks saying, Zach, thank you so much, I did a deal here, I'll know, hey, they're actually doing pretty well here. And yes, I see other kids doing well there. It's definitely something you should be going after because I see data of other beginner wholesalers doing well. And if they can do well, you can do the same exact thing. So let's use an example here to really figure out exactly what makes a good or bad virtual wholesaling market. For example, here, let's use Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. There's a lot of deals there. There's a lot of buyers, right? I don't think a lot of people understand this, but the population of Oklahoma City, again, I have to double check this sometimes, is 694,000 plus people. That's way a lot of people. It's more people than Kansas City. I mean, it is a massive city, and not a lot of people understand this, and that's why not a lot of wholesalers go after a market like that. They don't really understand how big of a population that is. The average home price here too is not a lot of people know. It's pretty cheap. It's around $205,000 per property. Now, there's obviously properties you can wholesale that are $400K, $350, $300, and there's some cheaper ones at like $120, $130. This I've personally found, I've had a lot of virtual wholesaling success and I've seen a lot of people do well here. This is a good virtual wholesaling market. Now, on the contrary, let's kind of look at data from like Northern Virginia or, Fairfax County. There's a lot of buyers, obviously, right? There is a low amount of deals I can say. There's not a lot of discounted properties. Now, yes, there's a lot of cash sales being done there. These are bigger corporations. And why is that? There's just not a lot of people selling their properties for a discount in this area. There's a ton of wholesalers here. And really, you can see from the data, right? There's 1.1 million people in this area, but the average home price is over $700,000. That is a bad market. Now, what can we figure out from this tale of two cities? Well, there's 2 factors I've found that makes a good city better than the other. Number 1, population. They have to have a high population. And obviously these 2 markets had high populations. Now, the other factor I look at is what we call the average home price. What's the average home price? Well, I looked at Oklahoma City, $205,000. I looked at Northern Virginia, over $700,000. I see a little bit of a difference here. Now we're starting to figure this out. So let's go back here and talk about population for a second, right? What I found here is in wholesaling, the more people in that city, that county, that metropolitan area, the more people that live there, there's going to be more buyers, right? There's more of a demand. There's more of an economy going on in that city, right? More schools, more jobs, more people looking to rent properties, and more people looking to buy property. Because you got to remember here in wholesaling real estate, our cash buyers are the ones paying us for the deals. They're ultimately the one we got to care about. And most cash buyers only want to buy deals for 2 reasons. And I know I repeat myself here a lot on freewholesaling.com about this, but it is absolutely true. Number 1, they buy a property to fix it up and flip it and make some cash quickly on there. Or number 2, they look to buy the property, fix it up and rent it out and just be a landlord. To be a landlord, you're going to have a high population, so there's a big demand for rental properties. And if you want to flip houses, you want a high demand of new people coming in and paying top dollar to buy said property. Now, both of these cities have that big population factor. There's a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers, which is good. But that second factor is the big difference here, median home price. Now, the same thing about population is true as the price. So the higher price of a piece of real estate usually means it's harder to get a discount. The lower the price, unfortunately, means we're going to have lower assignment fees. So we need to find a sweet spot for a median home price. In my opinion, I like to deal with properties that are between $75,000 all the way up to $300,000. Now, the max I like to go after an ARV of a wholesaling deal is going to be $400,000. And frankly, that is pushing it to the limit. If I'm looking to flip a car and make money buying a car and fixing it up and flipping it, do you think if I find somebody with an old beat up 2010 Toyota Camry that I know a buyer will buy it for around $9,000 and the guy says he wants to sell it for $8,000 and I offered him $4,000 for that thing, $4,000 for his $9,000 car, do you think he is more likely to take that versus if somebody had a Lamborghini Aventador, and this was, let's say, a $400,000 car, and I offered him $200,000 for it. Who do you think is more likely to take that deal I give to them? It's the Toyota Camry. And you see it all the time. Car dealers do this when they're trading in vehicles, right? They'll offer half of it, but you're like, it's $4,000. You know, I don't want to go through all the hassle of this and the mechanics, and heck, a transmission's going to cost me $2,000 or $3,000, and all this stuff can happen. I got to put new hubcaps. You know what? I'll just take it. It's easy. Versus the Lamborghini, it's like, no, I'm not losing $4,000. I'm losing $200,000 by taking this deal. And what you have to understand here is, I know that's an extreme tales of two type of cars, but it's the same thing for a piece of real estate. Somebody is more likely to take a 30% hit on the value of their piece of real estate if it's a $75,000 house versus a 30% hit on a $700,000 house. It's just so much different. Because offering 30% off, so 70% of the value of a $70,000 house, you're buying that thing for $49,000. And so offering to buy something for 49 that's worth 70, it's kind of lower, but like it's something a lot of people would take. Versus offering $490,000 for a $700,000 house. Now, you might be like, well, I would never take $490,000 if my house is worth $700,000. Yeah, of course. I mean, statistically, there's not even close to a ton of people that do that. But if you look at a person with a really ugly house and it's a $70,000 right now is what it's worth, a lot of people are going to take $49,000 because they know the amount of hassle and work on that thing is going to be a lot tougher. On top of that too, there's less distressed and a lot less really ugly houses that are worth $700,000. The ones that are worth $60,000 or $70,000, there is a ton of those type of ugly houses that are worth $70,000. So it's more of a supply and demand thing. There's just way more ugly houses at lower price points than there are at higher price points because people don't let nice, expensive houses go into disarray, but cheaper, less expensive houses that are 70, 80, 90 grand, they let those things go all the time. Now, on top of this too, I kind of have my secret methods on finding the best virtual wholesaling markets. First and foremost, I love finding people that quote flex in X city. So I see a lot of people bragging, oh, I just made $30,000 in Orlando, man. And they show the deal and they show the zip code. It's like, okay, so if Orlando's working for you, maybe that would happen for me, right? Maybe that does work. Facebook groups, I find this all the time. Remember, if a wholesaling real estate deal and people are getting checks for a newbie who doesn't really know what they're doing, it's definitely gonna work for you. I mean, heck, I even recommend you go to my YouTube channel and you go watch some of my podcasts with these young whippersnapper kids making 90 grand their first year. And I just ask them what market they're in. Oh, if you're doing well in there, let's go after it, right? A good example of this is there's about 4 or 5 kids this year that sent me their first deal, and they got their first deal in Rhode Island, which, you know, last year there's a lot of kids doing deals in Rhode Island and the year before that. But before that, you know, I'm starting wholesaling when I was like 19, 20, 21 years old, like virtually. I would have never put Rhode Island on my radar on a good virtual market. And the only way now I still could recommend Rhode Island is because I have 10 or 15 people sending me checks saying, Zach, thank you so much. And I've personally now done JV deals in Rhode Island. So because I have actual raw data of me closing deals in Rhode Island, I know I can recommend it now. I never really believed it because it never even fit my criteria, but after doing deals there, I can confirm it does work. Now, the question goes, okay, now I know I picked my market, I know where to go. Where do I find the best zip codes and areas for wholesaling? Now, my biggest recommendation, and the one that I'm just gonna scream at you forever, is ask your cash buyers. That's right, just ask them. It's not that complicated. So many of you guys try to guess where the cash buyers want to buy. Don't ask them, just ask. This is like guessing who somebody's favorite football team is and you don't know where they're from. Your guess is as good as mine if you're a Vikings fan, a Dolphins fan, a Falcons fan, a Patriots fan. Nobody knows. I mean, I guess if you're like really overconfident in yourself, you can guess they're a Cowboys fan, but like that's the only guess you can have. Like think about it. If you didn't know I'm from Florida, how do you guess what football team is my favorite? Besides the Miami Dolphins helmet behind me, you would never know. And if you get the wrong guess, you can get in trouble. But if you just ask me, Zach, who's your favorite football team? I'll tell you it's the Dolphins. I'm not scared to say it. And a lot of your cash buyers aren't scared to say where they're looking to buy. And the data never lies. You know, I sometimes get cash buyers that say, Zach, I'll buy anywhere. And I say, okay, well, would you buy in the hood right now? Well, no, I don't buy in high crime areas. Okay, well, you don't buy anywhere then. Tell me, what are the last 5 properties you've bought in? oh, I bought 123 Main Avenue, this street, this street. I'm like, oh, so that's 5 deals you've done were in only 2 zip codes. So these are 2 zip codes you like buying in, right? He's like, yeah, I never thought about that. Okay, perfect. Well, go on those zip codes and go market for them. You got to remember, like I've said in the beginning of this video, half of all areas in wholesaling real estate are unwholesalable. These are areas that are either too nice, they're too bad, and really they're not the best. The best areas generally per se, the best zip codes, are going to be what we call starter homes. These are houses that are not above the median home price. They're usually a little older, right? They were built in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 70s, 80s. And they're generally 2 1s, 3 2s, maybe 4 2s, 4 3s. And they're not crazy extravagant houses. These are houses being bought by the backbone of America. And what I mean by this is not your NFL players or your crazy Wall Street bankers, but think about the janitors in your city, your bus drivers, the teachers, plumbers, sanitation workers, grocery store managers, right? I mean, people not making $500,000 plus per year, but people making anywhere between 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 100 grand. They're living in areas that are a little cheaper, but they're not crime infested areas, right? They're actually low crime and the prices are low. And so the best Goldilocks zone for zip codes is you want to find lower priced homes that are in low crime areas. And one example I give to you, and I hope this isn't controversial, but look at where police officers live. And what I say by that is police officers don't live in high crime areas, but they also don't make millions of dollars per year. And so they live in areas that they can afford, that they're raising their kids and family in, which aren't high crime. And so that's the best Goldilocks zone. Low prices, low crime. And most people watching this, if you lived in a regular suburban class area, that's where you grew up. And if you grew up in an area that wasn't like that, think of the area that you wanted to live in. That's the best way to figure out exactly where the best areas are for wholesaling. Low crime, low prices. And if you want to look at crime areas per zip code, you can call your local police department and just ask for crime statistics per zip code, and they should give it to you. And then lastly is these areas work really well is because that starter home area are where people start buying houses on FHA loans because there's a cap limit on the prices of those homes. And just also look at data of where most of the FHA homes are being bought in your city, and you'll figure out pretty quick exactly where are the best areas for wholesaling real estate. And I'm saying this from my 7+ years of experience virtually wholesaling and wholesaling locally. Where these starter home areas are is the best areas to be going after. On top of this too, you can ask your title companies where are the best zip codes for wholesaling, and they've done a lot of wholesaling transactions, so they'll tell you most of these zip codes are where the wholesaling deals are being done. They're going to tell you them because they want you to do wholesale more. Figure out where a lot of the rental properties are, and again, like I've said before, affordable working class housing. Houses that are a little older, a little cheaper, but with low crime rates. And then last but not least, I'm going to give you some homework for today's 6 of the 30-day wholesaling challenge. Guys, just sit down for 1 hour and find your market with a high enough population and a lower median home price. That's it. You only get 1 hour. If you don't already have a virtual wholesaling market, put a 1 hour timer and just find an area that has a higher population and a low median home price. Use Google to find median home price and use Google for your populations. You should be set up, ready to go. And if you need a little more help exactly what areas you should be going after, here is a little bit of a heat map showing the average home price per state. Now, look at this map here. California, the average house is $799,000. But areas like Fresno, California, it is under 300. So that is a good area, right? There's some areas in Colorado that work too, and some areas that don't. You're gonna see pretty much every state has a good virtual wholesaling area, except for really the Northeast, California, Seattle, Washington State, and Oregon, right? You can make it work in Oklahoma, you can make it work in Texas. Florida has a lot of hot spots too, where you can make wholesaling real estate work. As long as you're not orange in it, you should be fine. Now, the one exception here is I'm gonna say is gonna be like Virginia. That Northern Virginia really skews things over, but like Lynchburg, Richmond, Hampton Roads area is the best for virtual wholesaling. So guys, go out here, find your market, find your zip codes, and get to work. Thank you guys so much for joining me for day 6 of the 30-day wholesaling challenge, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 7. Thank you guys so much. Have a blessed one.